On this episode of Searchers, we're at the Stoney Point Church and Schoolhouse in Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Stoney Point Church can actually trace its history back to about 1803. And actually one of the founders of that church was Reverend John McMillan.
Ooh! Hey, Brian! I got something shiny.
What do you got?
Check this out. Check it. Look at this.
Oh, it's,
look at that.
You know what that is, right?
Yes, I do.
Let's see here. Ooh, you know what? It looks like it might be a coin.
On Searchers, we combine myth and history to find the truth.
So when we look at the history of Stoney Point, we actually have to look at two separate histories. We have to look at the church and then look at the schoolhouse. Now, Stoney Point Church can actually trace its history back to about 1803. And actually one of the founders of that church was Reverend John McMillan. Now, Reverend John McMillan was an early Presbyterian minister. He would have been responsible for over 30 churches in Western Pennsylvania. He taught over 100 ministers and gave approximately 6,000 sermons over his lifetime. When he died in 1833, he was one of the most renowned Presbyterian ministers, not just here in Western Pennsylvania, but in the United States. So the first church that was built would have lasted for a few decades. It was a wooden frame structure that was replaced by another wooden frame building that is still standing there today. Now, there was also a third church. That third church would have been built sometime around the turn of the 20th century, and that is still there today, would have been used up until the 1970s. And so we have really three sites that we're looking at when it comes to the churches, because there's three separate churches. Now, for the schoolhouse, that would have had its origins with the 1834 Free School Act of Pennsylvania. The original schoolhouse would have been built in 1835. Now, it burnt at some point. And what they ended up doing was they started to use the second church as the schoolhouse. And that would have run probably up until the 1930s or 40s, when you start seeing the public school system come about and there's no need for these one-room schoolhouses. So we have a lot of history that we're looking at. We have the history of church congregations in three separate churches, and the history of two schoolhouses and all the students that would have went through there over a 100-year period. Think about everything that could be there. The students could have dropped items while they were sitting around either having lunch under trees, or maybe they were out playing outside during a break, or all the congregations every Sunday going to church, wearing your Sunday best. Everything that they could have possibly dropped over 200 years, that's what we're looking for. So I'm really excited to see what Rich and Brian are going to be able to find when they go to the Stoney Point Church and Schoolhouse location.
So we're just getting started for the day. We're here at an old one-room schoolhouse, the stereotypical one-room Pennsylvania schoolhouse. You can see it's a little in pretty decent shape, but a little worse for wear. We believe it was originally made in around 1842 and used up until the early 19th century, so it's been around a while, and it's probably seen quite a few children come through here. The lay of the land, it's a little bit of a hill. Got some poison ivy we're going to have to keep an eye out for and not get into that. And I think we're going to do pretty good here. I don't think it's been hit too much, if at all. So we'll see what we got. I got a hit right here. This is reading about 16 to 29 on mine. It's going back and forth. Those of you that are running cruisers know what I mean. That could be anything from a piece of steel scrap or aluminum foil to a gold ring. So we're going to dig this and see what we've got here.
This is going to be an easy one. It's right here.
What do we got here? Oh, this is kind of cool. It's a piece of an ink pen, a quill type ink pen that you actually dip in the inkwell. Judging by the style, I'd say 19th century, mid to late. The school was used up until the early 20th century, so it definitely is in the time frame of the school, and this is definitely something I would expect to find at a one-room schoolhouse in little old Pennsylvania. So, very cool, very nice. We'll go see what else we can find here. We got a lot of schoolhouse to check out.
You know, I saw you down there around the church, and I really didn't want to, bother you or encroach on your area down there.
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm trying to be nice. But, I decided, I saw those trees up there. They looked old, so I thought that'd be the perfect spot to go. I could see people sitting up there.
People sit under trees.
All the time. Oh, hey, you know what? Well, this is a good tone. This is repeatable, 65, 66. These usually are buttons or a large coin or something like that for me. Gotta check this one out. All right. The ground here is just so dry, you can't really dig a good plug because it just all comes apart on you. All right, hey, look, it's right here. It's almost right underneath the surface. It looks like it might be a coin, but I don't know. It's really... Hey, I know what this is. Way too thin to be a coin, but it's a huge button. You could see on the back where the solder would have been to attach the shank. Probably off of a greatcoat, something like that. We're underneath these old trees up here. They're probably at least a couple 100 years old, if not 175, right behind the schoolhouse. You could see the kids coming up here to play or sitting down in the afternoon whenever they got their break, but pretty cool find. Going to keep looking underneath these trees. Oh, hey, here's another good sound. We're up underneath these trees again. I could see probably kids sitting underneath here. Consistently a 60 tone, so I'm thinking it might be a button. Let's check it out. All right, we're going to try to dig a plug here, but I'm going to tell you what, again, this ground is all deflated here. You can see that it's just washing all the sod off. Really hard to get a plug on this one, but we'll try to be easy because everything's just underneath the surface here. So I'm going to try to be real careful so we don't nick up anything. Let's check out here and see. Oh, whatever it is, it's right there. Oh, I could see it. I don't know, that might be a coin. Nope, another button. That's pretty cool. I mean, on this one here, you can see the shank is still there. A smaller button, probably all like off of a piece of clothing or something like that. Maybe a shirt. It could have been like a waistcoat or a vest. We'll clean these up and take a look at that shank because you can usually date them by that. So in our big reveal, we'll have some dates for you on this button, but either 18th century or early 19th century. Another cool find underneath these trees. I have another decent tone underneath here. It's repeatable. It's in the high 40s, low 50s, like 49, 50, 52, a little chop every once in a while, but you have to dig those because they can always be something decent. So let's check it out here. Make sure it's not out of the hole first. No, I don't see it. That's not out of the hole. Oh, whatever it is, it's right there. Oh, there it is. It's a coin, definitely. Boy, that earth is caked on there. Ah, I can see what it is. It's a buffalo. You can see the buffalo on this side. I imagine we flip it over. Yep, there's the Indian head on the other. Nice little find. We'll have to clean it up to see if we can get a date off of it. But this one's pretty slick. I don't know if we're going to get a date off of it, but another neat find. All of this little stuff coming right up underneath these trees right here, just uphill from the school. I'm going to keep working this place pretty hard to see what else we could pull out.
You were killing it under those trees.
There were a lot of finds. I had to work it really slow, and I was excited with everything I was finding.
Yeah. Now, I didn't want to encroach on your territory, so I looked over and saw that big, wide, open yard.
Yeah, I know. You got there first.
Yes, I did. It's right there. is something big. Ah! It's a horseshoe, or at least a half a horseshoe. Guess I'm only half lucky here today. Well, I guess it stands to reason because I'm right on the road, going between the actual road and up to the cemetery. You can see the tracks through here. So looks like it's from a draft horse, and that's still got the nails in it too. As much as I hate to say it, this is probably from a horse that was taking somebody to their final resting place. So yeah, there's something from the cemetery most likely there. Really cool, really heavy. So I'm still digging, working around. I moved off from the schoolhouse and came up by the privy because you always find things near a privy. So I got a signal right here. I've already got the hole dug. I've got it exposed, but I wanted to share this with you because this is something you don't see very often, and it's really cool. Dust it off a little bit. Okay, looks like a little badge. Okay, really cool. Even cooler when you read the badge and it says dog tax paid 1910. So this is what you got. They were still trying to bust dog owners way back then too, paying that dog tax. So there it is right there, 1910. That's probably one of the oldest ones I've ever seen myself. And that's really cool. That's cool.
You know, I got another good tone here. It's repeatable 50, 51, sometimes 52. I can already see what it is. I got to call Rich over for this one. Hey, Rich, come here. Check this out.
What you got?
You got to see this. You can see it. It's in the hole. It's in a little clod right now.
Okay.
You see it there?
Ooh,
round. Yeah. It's a
round.
decent size. Yeah, it is.
It's
It's
round.
definitely a coin. And you know what? It's not a weedy because we've been finding a ton of them out
we
here.
found so many Wheaties.
I think it's, oh, look at that.
That's a little larger.
Yeah, it is. I bet you it's nickel size, definitely. You know what?
That's awful red.
I got a V nickel.
That's sweet.
You can see it right there. There's the V on it right there.
That's not too far off of the road.
No, it isn't. You know, we're along that driveway right there, but I don't think that's, I mean, I don't know. That might have been the...
Nah, that's new driveway. Well, you know what? We got the school here.
Yeah.
We got the church there.
Yep.
Cemetery up there. Look at the depression.
Oh, you could see it right here.
Yeah.
Right there, you could actually see the two trails going up through there, you know, probably where they were driving wagons and everything up through. So
Yep.
people probably walking up along this, maybe going up to the cemetery.
Yep.
Or, you know, probably coming in. They probably parked their carriages and everything all through in here.
Well,
Well,
you
know what?
need to hit this whole trail a little harder.
I think we need to. I guess you're going to get to it before I do.
No, I'm going that way.
Oh, okay.
I won't be rude, even though I've got the better detector.
Oh. Hey, you know what? I think I have something pretty good over here. You know, this is ringing in the high 70s, low 80s, which can sometimes mean silver. Let's check out and see. I mean, it's right there. It's right at the bottom of the plug. Oh, yes. I know exactly what that is, and it comes out of the ground like the day it was dropped. Look at that, a beautiful Mercury dime. Looks like 1942 on it. I mean, so readable, so beautiful. You gotta love silver. I found it between the, looks like the old school over there and this older church. You can imagine people walking right through here, nice little flat area. Probably sitting underneath this big tree, spills right out of their pocket, into the ground. Lucky enough to find it all those years later.
So I'm over here a little closer to the church now. Got a pretty nice hit here. It's ringing like a coin. We'll find out what we got here. Okay, I guess I should have seen this one coming. This is a reed from a pump organ called a reed organ. There would have been a small piece of spring steel here. When you were pumping the organ, the air flowed over the reed and made the sound. Kind of stands to reason, and by a church, they obviously had an organ to sing with on Sunday morning services. So, yeah, not something entirely surprising. We tend to find a good bit of these in Pennsylvania, especially southwestern Pennsylvania, because we were out on the fringe of habitation, and everybody had one of these things because if you couldn't get to a church, you did services at your own house. So, very cool.
You know, I'm working right along this little flat. I'm not too far where I found a few other things, and I have a decent signal. It sounds almost like a kiss on it, but it's ringing right around 65, 66. Let's see here. Ooh, you know what? It looks like it might be a coin. No, it isn't a coin. Oh, check it out. It's a little locket. You know, it looks like it. I can tell it's already kind of wanting to open up there. But there's, you know what? There's a little bit of design on it. You know, maybe this might have held a little picture or something at one point, or maybe, I don't know. I don't think it would have had any kind of makeup in it. It looks more like something you would have had a picture or something in. But a cool little find. You know, people, again, we're right along this huge tree right here between the two buildings. You could just imagine people sitting out here, relaxing, you know, probably little church functions, anything like that. And they're losing all these items.
Ooh! Hey, Brian! I got something shiny.
What do you got?
Check this out. Check it. Look at this.
Oh, it's,
Look at that.
You know what that is, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That is a Mercury.
Oh, look at that beautiful
Look at
coin.
that. Look at that. How nice and shiny. Boy, those things are shiny when
It's
they
just
pull
like
out.
the day they were
They're like the
dropped.
day it's dropped.
And you know what? Look,
Boy, is that pretty.
we're right between the same spot where we're finding all these, you know, all these coins.
Yeah,
and
it's like a path
everything.
between the school and the church.
Yep.
Very nice, very nice. What's the date on it? 19, hold it out here where I can see it. 1929.
Well, you know what?
1929.
We both have one. I'm going to go find another one.
You always got to one-up me, don't you? You know, that was my first Merc and my first piece of silver. And I tell you what, that's an awesome feeling, getting that hole opened up and looking down and seeing that little bit of shiny at the bottom.
Always good to see the shine.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have a high, solid 82, 83 repeatable signal, and that only means one thing. And you know what? I don't have to pull out the pinpointer this time to see what it, or try to find it, because it's right there in the bottom of the plug. And you know what? It's a silver coin, and it's definitely, oh, yes, it is, a beautiful Mercury dime. This one looks like it's 1923. Beautiful, just as it always is. It goes in the ground shiny and comes out shiny most of the times. And look at that beautiful coin. Sitting right along here, one of probably the old drives for the church up behind us. Lost and found once more.
You know, I can't believe that you found a second Merc.
You know, I did feel guilty for like 3 seconds.
Yeah, I could tell. I really could tell.
But you know what? Imagine, there was 3 of those that came off of that one parcel down there.
Yeah, and all basically fairly in a line with each other, too.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were. You know what? We need to get back to Clay and tell him everything that we got.
Yep, got to show him this stuff.
Let's get there.
Yep.
All right, guys, so you're back from Stoney Point. I see a lot of stuff here, so just tell me what you got.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I have. Then Rich can explain what he's, you know, what he found. Most of the stuff that we found a lot of coins, and they were really just almost in a line between both those buildings, between the church and then the new church. A lot of them are right through there. Most of the coins that I found, we found a lot of Wheaties. I did find some Indian heads. There were some Buffalo nickels, some early Jefferson nickels from the 40s and 50s. But really interesting was I found a couple V nickels, which I was kind of excited about. We did find Mercury dimes. As you can see, they're just as beautiful as the day they were dropped.
They really do stand out.
Oh, they do.
look nice.
That's the only thing on the table that actually is glistening back at us here. But we did find some other things too. Some stuff of a personal nature. I did find some flat buttons. Interesting enough is that when you look at the shanks, they're all late 18th century shanks. And what I mean by that, they're in an alpha shank, not an omega. That's one way of dating them. But as everyone knows, everyone's grandmother would keep a jar of buttons. You're not going to throw a button away because that's an expensive commodity. So probably reused, not that meaning they were dropped at that time. And then also we just found some stuff, more of also another personal nature. Did find a ring out there. It's a costume ring. At first I thought it might have been silver, but it's probably silver plate. And it's some kind of weird pot metal with the gems kind of like dropped into it. It's,
Okay.
probably not that expensive. A spoon, and then this neat little thing here looks like probably maybe on a lapel. Maybe you actually put a real flower in. I'm not sure. And I also did find a locket.
Really?
When you look at the design, it's very Art
Ooh.
Nouveau.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, probably that early 20th century. So everything that I'm finding here is more saying something to the early 20th century, at least the stuff that I found.
Okay. But except for the buttons, you're looking at more of a late 18th, early 19th.
Yeah, I think all of these I found right above the tree. And actually, one of the V-nickels and a couple of the buffaloes were all found underneath those trees right above the old church. But, it was also a school. So when it transformed back between a school and a church, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking these were probably dropped maybe mid to late 1800s.
Okay. And what do you have?
Well, you can see most of the stuff that I got a lot of stuff here. A lot of it more personal in nature, like Brian. I got a lot of pennies. I got my one Mercury dime, my first silver.
It does stand out.
It does. I got 3 buffaloes. There's one Wheatie in there. Everything else is a Lincoln, so they're a little bit more modern, 40s and after. I did find one button. I believe it's an aluminum button. So obviously that's more modern, probably after the 40s or something, 2-hole. Did have my one, probably one of my favorite finds on this one is the dog tax tag. A buckle, which I'm pretty certain that this is a little bit more of a modern buckle because it has the swoop in it, whereas the older ones, the hand-forged ones, they were pretty straight.
Okay.
Horseshoe, and that's half of the horseshoe, but it was for a fairly sizable horse. And then, of course, obviously, I got the head of a ball-peen hammer there. That's, somebody probably really missed that thing when it came up.
So when we look at the history of the site, you're looking at a building that was a church, later became a schoolhouse when they built the new church.
Right.
That shut down in 1972,
72, I think,
somewhere in
yeah.
there. So you're looking at a place where from 1840s through 1972, you have a church and then a church and a schoolhouse.
Right.
So is this telling you that story?
Yeah, it is. I think what we're seeing is like I said, a lot of the coins and some of the little personal things that we found, especially the ring, I think the dog tax tag, they were all found. If we would plot it out, it's almost in a direct line between the front door of that church and the upper side of the new church that was built out there, almost as in a path between the direct two. So, was something going on, or is that where people were parking and they're getting out, maybe out of buggies, but then at some point they're getting out of cars? Because a lot of the stuff we're finding in the early 20th century.
So what I'm looking at here, and I think you guys accomplished the goal you set out to. You wanted to help tell the story of Stoney Point Church and Schoolhouse. So what you're seeing is that story from 1842 all the way up to 1972 when the church shut down.